Good morning. I'm here with Dustin Moore, candidate for the Olathe City Council Ward 4 position. On behalf of the Olathe Chamber, thank you for being here today. Dustin, let's get started. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking this office?
Yeah, so my wife and we moved to Olathe in 2017 after purchasing our first home. And I've been involved in politics since college. I actually interned for Senator Moran. And since then, I've been involved in helping candidates get elected to local offices here in Johnson County and Olathe, but across the country as well. I've never actually had an interest in running for politics or political office. I've always gotten the questions of when are you going to run? When are you going to run? But honestly, my interest has been more in helping good people get elected to office rather than running myself. And then after purchasing our home and living here for a few years, I just kind of started to realize that the community that we thought we moved into after when we bought our home in 2017, we looked at homes across Johnson County, even put in offers and never won our bid, and decided to move to Olathe, where we actually have family and are even encouraging friends and family to move to as well now. And just started to get the feeling that the community that we were kind of sold on and the image that we thought Olathe had wasn't quite going in that same direction we had anymore. So I figured it was just time to step forward and see if I could make a difference.
Well, great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your top three priorities for running and what they would be if you're elected to the city council?
So the number one priority that I have is just better communication between elected officials and members of the community. That's really, since I filed for office, even before I filed, really, I heard from people outside of my ward, actually across Olathe, that really when they've gone before their city government or even reached out to their different elected officials, they just felt like they would get in touch with them, they would hear back from them, but they would just feel like it was more transactional based rather than just, I'm your elected official, I'm here, here's how I can help, and here's my input on it. It was more of just, okay, you've submitted your email, you've submitted your petition, or you give me a call. Now let me put you on to city staff and see if we can resolve your issue. And if it's not, well, that's kind of as far as it goes. The second focus that I have on is really has to do with the overall look and feel of Olathe. A lot of folks I've heard from, they're very upset, and this kind of is all over the metro right now, is the number of apartment complexes that are going up. Folks really feel like it hurts the makeup and feel of established neighborhoods, as well as even for long-term development outside, south and western part of Olathe, that it can just really, it's kind of more of a detriment more than a plus to the community. And, Olathe was established as a bedroom community for the, Kansas City suburbs and metropolitan area. I'd really like to see it that way. It adds more, more apartments that you build, it adds more congestion, but it also just doesn't allow people to have a sense of an overall community if you're putting in more apartments versus focusing on homeowners and establishing homes and establishing long-term connections in a community. The third issue that I'm kind of focused on, and I've spoken with members of the business community as well as folks from the chamber as well, is incentives and not handouts, but more incentives and tax abatements and financing for different projects that go on in Olathe. I feel like they do have a place for developing community. I know sometimes with older areas of retail and sections of town, it can often be difficult to find developers. And I've even been hearing that as well, that some property owners really don't want to redevelop certain areas because right now they're still making money, which I don't begrudge them for that. And so they have no interest in really adding on to it or adding new features to certain areas. And so working with city council, working with city staff, but also working with developers around the community and around the country as well to find ways to bring new retail options, new shops, new stores to Olathe that actually work for Olathe. I've found it kind of funny to see that a lot of the comments that I hear from folks that they say, well, Shawnee's doing this, or Prairie Village is doing that, or Overland Park's doing this, or Kansas City's doing this. So let's try to do that here in Olathe. I don't think for a long-term goal as leaders on a city council or business development, that's actually a smart move. If you want your community to be unique and attract people who are coming to your community because of its uniqueness, doing the same thing that everybody else is doing is just going to turn you into, another copycat of a better community. I want Olathe to be Olathe, and I want Olathe to be the best. And to do that, you have to kind of think outside the box and bring in opportunities that are different than what other communities are doing.
That's a good segue into, let's talk about tax policy and the value that you think Olathe citizens receive for their local taxes. Can you talk about what changes, if any, you would make to the city budget?
I probably wouldn't make any changes right away. Like I said, I've paid attention to what's going on at the city level. And I know actually with new changes to state law that the city government's going to have to actually have a public hearing on not necessarily raising taxes, but raising them above the revenue neutral rate. And I don't think that they're necessarily higher or higher than other areas of the community. And I do think we do get excellent value in terms of just road, fire, and police and other city services that we receive, especially our water. I've heard folks say that we need to just go ahead and merge with Water One. I don't want to see that happen. I think, again, that keeps Olathe unique to the community and to the metropolitan area, that we kind of have more say over how our community runs versus just being in the collective unit of the metropolitan area. In the short term, what I think I would like to see is a reexamination of sales taxes, particularly on food, with inflation going up and folks having difficult times finding jobs or just staying employed. I think we could, in the short term, potentially lower those and see how that affects the city budget. And if it doesn't have too much of a negative effect, or we're able to absorb it with increasing costs, I think maybe considering keeping that permanent.
Right. Well, over the last 20 years, the city of Olathe's development has outpaced its fellow sister cities. How would you help continue this high quality of growth in Olathe? And what role, if any, do you believe that the city should play in economic development to bring jobs and capital investment to Olathe?
So, yeah, we've already touched on this. And I think we're starting to see Olathe grow into communities that didn't expect growth into their areas. And as a member of the city council, like I said, I've heard from folks well outside my ward. I actually heard more from people outside of Ward 4 that I'm running in than almost anywhere. And it's mainly because of the developments that are starting to encroach into their neighborhoods, into the more rural parts of the county. And again, I think there's just not that dialogue that's occurring with different development projects that are going on in the established neighborhoods that are there. I spoke to one neighborhood development that actually had an issue with the city, and they heavily petitioned the city over the development projects that were going in. And again, they just felt like, they could present evidence, present their case, present petitions to the city and the city staff, and it just wasn't enough. Their voices were overshadowed and just not disregarded, but they just felt like they weren't getting a fair shake at the end of the day. And so I think having more of an open dialogue with city council members, having actually more open town halls, that's something I've been surprised about since moving here, is our local leaders, whether it's at city council level or state legislative level or up to, county commission, there's really not an opportunity in terms of town halls or just one-on-one dialogues for people to meet and get to better know their elected leaders outside of just election season or when they're having council meetings or different sub meetings. And so it's extending that out to the community so that when projects are occurring, people just aren't caught off guard when they see the development sign pop up in their neighborhood and they go, oh, great, what's going on? What's going to be going up there? And when they try to say, well, can we slow this or change the development a little bit? By the time they see that sign, the project's already set in stone most of the time. And so they quickly realize that, they should have been more involved prior to that. But without that extended hand from their local leaders, they're often caught off guard. So that'd be my focus on trying to bridge that gap in terms of new development in the Olathe area.
Hey, what do you think are the three greatest opportunities or challenges facing the city of Olathe in the next 10 years? And how would you capitalize on those?
Well, I think the first is just the growth of the city in terms of homeowners and the types of folks we want to attract. And this mainly goes towards the downtown area as well. That would be the second one. And I often hear this kind of refrain of, if we want to redevelop downtown or if we want to attract younger people that are my age, I'm only 30 years old, so I think I fall into that category of attracting millennials to an area, is that we get thrown into a box where we just have this kind of preconceived idea that younger people want to have downtown living, be next to shops and bars and be able to go out on the weekends and party. And even if that's the case, even if that's 80% of people my age that want that, I would say I fall into the other 20%. I moved to Olathe because I wanted a home, wanted to start a family, wanted to start a business. And why can't we go after, say that's the priority we're going to make? We're going to make it the 20% of younger families that we want to attract to Olathe. And I think that's what we should be doing. Doesn't mean I don't think we should redevelop downtown, but I don't think we need to redevelop downtown in a way that is just a cookie cutter idea of we need to have entertainment districts or we need to have hip, flashy restaurants or have, large multi-story condos downtown, kind of like what the Lawrence area has done. It kind of throws off, the look and feel of the community and goes back to my former point of it's just the cookie cutter thing to do. If that's what a developer says, hey, we've done this in 5 or 6 other towns, let's just do this here. I'd rather stop and pause and go, well, what can we do that's different? What can we do that works for Olathe that makes and keeps Olathe unique rather than just being some other drive-through suburb that when you're driving through, you don't know if you've passed into Lenexa, Overland Park, or Olathe. It just all looks the same at that point. And the third, I would say, and this again kind of goes with the type of families and individuals you're wanting to attract to your community, is just higher level paying jobs. I know we have a lot of great companies here. We have Garmin and other companies, but getting away from this model of attracting warehouses, I know that's the trend, or you'll hear that's what our economy is shifting to is more warehouses, direct to consumer shipping, and we have a great location here for that in Olathe. And I know we have established developments for those types of businesses in Olathe, but those are oftentimes minimum wage jobs or barely above minimum wage jobs. And with the average home costing nearly $250,000 in Olathe, and most actually new home starts in Olathe are closer to $350,000 and $400,000. I don't know if those people would really, even with a 2-person salary, be able to afford a new home in Olathe. Maybe Gardner, maybe DeSoto, and they drive in. I know there's a lot of folks that are driving into Olathe or from across the metro area. But if we want to continue that growth in home ownership, we need to have those base of jobs here that are paying those higher level salaries for college graduates to move here. And that even goes with, I've been hearing it for a decade. How do we keep our Kansas graduates here at home from moving away? And oftentimes it's, we fall back into this, well, they're moving to other cities because it has entertainment or this and that. Again, that's likely true. I went to college with many people from Kansas that moved away for, they wanted to be in bigger cities. But again, there are plenty of Kansans and even graduates from our universities from out of state that aren't looking for that. And I think we need to maybe change our marketing direction to find those people that want that way of life here in Kansas, because at the end of the day, I'm not looking to have some giant entertainment district here in Olathe or even the Johnson County area. If I'm looking for entertainment or go on vacation, I'll be taking my family out of state because we are in such a central area that those opportunities are endless. You can travel up to the Great Lakes where I have family that lives. We go there for vacations, or you go down to the Lake of the Ozarks, or you're just a simple, a few hour flight away from the coast if you want to take your family, or a drive for a road trip, which I did with my parents growing up. So I think we just need to kind of change our mentality a little bit for how we're marketing, not just the city, but the county and our state as a whole for who we're trying to attract here, rather than just trying to go after the same pool that everybody seems to be going after these days.
Dustin, I got one final question. What do you believe most distinguishes you from your opponent in this race?
That's a good question. And, when I set out to file and run, it wasn't because, the incumbent did this or the incumbent, wasn't doing this. It was, I saw that there were certain things going on in Olathe that I thought could change. So I would really say the one thing that sets me apart is just a different and fresh perspective on how I think the Olathe community can grow. And I think that's good. Having changes in leadership is always good as long as you have the memory of what was built and what it took to get our community there. But having a fresh ideas and fresh perspective of where the community go, I think is important.
Well, Dustin, on behalf of the Olathe Chamber, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We appreciate you running, and we appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. Good luck in your campaign.
Yep. Thank you for setting this up.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.